Okay, check, check, check. All right, cool. Looks like we're live. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching live, if you are checking this out on the recording, I absolutely appreciate it. We're gonna do some sketching today, just I think a variety show. Not really sure what I want to sketch. Um, I know that there's like at least one environment sketch that I want to do, and then maybe we'll do some other stuff. First, I want to show kind of like what couple of things that I've been working on in my little non-sketchbook sketchbook. So we'll flip over to that. All right. So on the overhead cam, this is just uh, some notes from teaching, and we're talking about uh, designing based on proportional systems. We also do um, in class. I have people do drawing workouts, or where we just like even no matter what level of class we're at, we just draw whatever references come to mind, and we spend as our warm up, we do a 5, 10, and a 15-minute drawing. So we take 30 minutes to draw to warm up. So we do stuff like a little 5-minute sketch of a person. Um, we do like uh, had like a little mound of mushrooms for a 10-minute sketch, and then did a 15-minute sketch plus a little extra time on this during the breaks of doing some armor. The point of this is not to create anything good, but just to get warmed up for the day. Um, and if you do want to make them into something, if they do turn into something, then you can go back later and work on it, right? Additionally, this week, just like uh, did some random sketches here. Started out with this reference of this like weird like overlook over a river, and this was kind of sticking close to the reference, and I didn't like it as much. Um, so what I did is kind of like compressed it and moved it off to the side, and then I like that a little more. And then um, when I logged back into Pinterest to look at references again, I saw some more birds and looked at some of my own references of birds and threw those in there just because that's what you do. You chase those things that look interesting when they look interesting to you. And then there's like some cat reference, and this was kind of my preparatory sketch, which I actually like more than this sketch. Um, it's got a lot of energy to it, but I was playing with distorting it a little bit, exaggerating some of the features. This was some like tree stuff that didn't really work out and just kind of became like a mess because I drew everything into it itself. And then here's another tree thing, some plant looking things just getting started, nothing fancy or like too dramatically impressive, but just fun to do just to play around in the sketchbook. And by the way, like I don't actually technically keep too many sketchbooks. I mean, I have them, um, but when I'm doing most of my sketching and drawing and working things out, I sketch on like these little pads, and I either tear the sheet or I tear sheets out first and work on loose paper. Um, and I just keep like stacks of loose paper around, like um, just because it's easier to sort of manage that, and it's less pressure, I think, um, which I enjoy a lot. Um, let's see here. I want to check in with chat, make sure that we're all good here. There we go. Nice. Yeah, so loose paper. Yeah, I just keep like tear these. I actually buy little cheap sketchbooks and tear paper out of it. Um, and then I do have sketchbooks, and I think I'm going to sketch at least one sketch in the sketchbook today. And then sometimes I'll take these paper pads and I'll take the backing off just so that it's like all flappy and less sketchbooky. Just anything to pull the pressure off of like that idea that a sketchbook has to be a work of art in itself. Um, when you see sketchbook tours on the internet, a lot of times it's like that. Like you see these just amazing sketchbooks, and they're not really like, they don't really show like process and development in there. It's just like execution. Um, so like here, this is a sketchbook I think I'm gonna work in right now. Um, and work on this reference that we've got off to the side, which is a little urban sketch thing. And what I'm kind of thinking for like for this sketchbook, I have two sketchbooks of urban sketches because um, where I live, there's like a meetup group where we go and meet at places around town and sketch. But what I'm thinking is like this big sketchbook is going to be the sketchbook for scenes that have like big, bold shapes and not as much like detail to get into. I mean, this I probably went overboard on detail, but again, my focus here was to create like gradients with these big, bold um, shapes. So this is going to be the sketchbook for that because it is larger. And then I've got this small sketchbook that is going to be for like things that involve detail, you know, um, just less about like these giant shapes and more about like tiny little textures and things that make environment sketching more lively. Um, you know, so things that involve like if this were on a big scale, I would kind of go crazy, I think. But when it's small scale like this, I think it's all right to do these like these textural things. And so I'm enjoying kind of like working in these two sketchbooks, and never knowing if I'm gonna mess something up or if it's gonna be bad or whatever. You know, like I think I messed up this sketch, this previous sketch here because I don't know, like I kind of liked how it was before I put these textures in, but then I didn't really like how blank it was either. Um, so now it just kind of looks like a little messy. Maybe I could save it, do some more or some more to it. But what I would do if I wanted to save it is just like scan this, put it in Photoshop, and work on it in Photoshop a little bit, and like not much, but just a little, just to get some ideas going, and then go back to it and try to save it. But now I think I want to like jump in and work on this thing. This is gonna be an unusual one for me. One of the things that I do most of the time is I keep my horizon line pretty low. So on this one, that's gonna be like a big difference is that the horizon line is gonna be really high on this from this reference. It's gonna be like, you know, right up here. Um, because what that's gonna do is create this huge, bold shape for this walkway. And that's kind of what I want to focus on. The walkway is going to be off center. It's going to be about here, so my vanishing point's there. Um, Also, I'm going to draw with the C1 marker, um, which is cool because in the end you can't really see it. Um, our walkway kind of like disappears like that. We know our like points of exit are going to be a little bit different. So like we have one line that's going to exit here and one line that we want to like exit here. And this may change shape because like the format of the reference may be different, and that's okay. So, but what I'm going to do is just go ahead and create this big triangle for the walkway. And what I usually do is like tick mark an exit point, um, because what I'm thinking about is like I don't want these to be the same on both sides. If these exit points are the same, it creates like too much symmetry and it's kind of lame. One of the other things I want to be sure to do is like never create a line down the middle. So when I do these dividing lines or whatever, I want to be sure that they're separated. Additionally, there's these like train tracks. They have like two boards, and I feel like this train track is gonna hit an exit point that's like two identical over here. Um, but we'll see. The other train track is gonna go like right here. So we're gonna create that kind of like close together there. Um, and then we'll think, okay, maybe about like here, 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 maybe one like right here, subdivisions. You know, sometimes these subdivisions aren't exactly what we want. There's like five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the train track could go here. So we could make that change where the both of them exit at the bottom, but I don't like that. I think I want to exit out here with the train track. Additionally, too, I always recommend spinning the sketchbook to create these long lines. So I'm going to do as I tell everyone to do. So this takes a second to set up, you know. I'm big on taking the time to like set things up properly. You have another subdivision that's going to come out over here. Um, Maybe we'll move that a little bit over, and then this will get a little bit bigger. I like how there's like a little jog here. And then actually what's funny is there's like a little bit of a hill here. Not a big hill, but just a little bit of one that creates this interesting little S curve there. Um, Alongside here, um, we need to subdivide this one more time so that we get this broken into two parts. Then over here, there's like a lot of plants and stuff like that, and so they need to kind of go back in perspective a little bit. So we got one plant here, a few peeking in here. Then we get like a larger bush here, and then we get a big tree that kind of comes out over things and actually goes all the way up. Maybe it's a couple of trees. It's hard to see in the reference. The reference got a little grainy on me. Then we have more platform back here, which I think actually goes out more. And then we do get trees coming in back here, and they create like this kind of cool swoop and exit out up here, and then dip down and back like that. Um, then they come up from here, so the trees, you kind of see where they come in there. Interestingly enough, normally with any kind of like landscape drawing, you would kind of see sky, but on this one you can't really, so that's kind of cool. It's I guess that's the thing that I was interested in here was like if you look down, how does that change how does that change everything when you can't see the sky in your drawing? And then what do you have to do to like compensate for that? How do you still make it cool and interesting? Um, and then here we do have this little like system of like rails and stuff like that going back, and they're gonna get closer together and smaller as they go away, like a little chain going between them. And then we'll pull some kind of loose lines over here and like let these kind of undulate a little bit. So we have a little bit of a ground grid there. Um, let's see. Then I don't think we need to do like I don't think we need to put people in here, but we can. Um, it might be fun to at least put a few people like kind of walking in the background here. Just make them really tiny and just really focus on creating this ground. Yeah, and then we want the train tracks to go here. So that's it for our kind of setup. Now we go in with some ink. And what's cool about this setup is like, you know, you can't see it well. I can see it fine. Um, and I think that that's wonderful because um, it like allows me to work as much as I want to on this without any kind of pressure. Um, so I think what I'll do is I'll start adding people in first, um, which is maybe like not how I'd normally do it, but um, I think it'll work out okay. Got some like tiny little crowd members back here. Um, yeah. Now we can go in and start thinking about like how all this works. It's always like stressful, I guess, like doing this without rulers, but I feel like when you use rulers, you kind of lose some life of everything, and I don't know. I'm just like I'm kind of a fan of like the imperfection, especially now that like there's so many digital tools, you know, like what we want really out of art is different now. It's like I think we want like that evidence of stuff to be handmade and like not as good, technically speaking, I guess. Like we want it to be like good and technically cool, but it's like we also want it to be like, you know, vibrant and alive. Um, I think when you allow and encourage sketches that aren't perfect but are still interesting and have like aesthetic joy to them, that's interesting to me. I think that's what we want. I'm gonna ditch this because this is kind of annoying me now. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Clean up my work environment. I have kind of a messy desk. There's stuff all over it. All right, here's the train track. Need to be sure this line works out okay. And then boom here. This is our last like main line that goes back. Um, and then here, I'm gonna do the bushes first because they overlap this last line. So we'll sketch out bushes initially here and have kind of the overlap of the bushes there. Some of the bushes overlap, some don't. So we're gonna sketch those kind of individually. So I think here we're gonna have this line hit that bush there. Then there's gonna be a little bit of a break, and then this bush will come out a little bit some. There we go. And then it'll go hit that, and then start going back again. This bush is contained until it gets back to the tree, so this bush is gonna go back here. And then, and I'm always like looking back at the reference and kind of re-observing. This isn't the best reference photo, um, which is fine. It kind of having a bad reference photo sometimes is useful because it like kind of makes you insert more of what you think and your shapes and knowledge um, into these pieces. Cool. So what we've got here basically is like linear perspective going this way, and then we've got overlap going here. And that overlap's going to build a ton of depth, which is convenient and nice. So here we've got these like little posts where the chains are going to come in. And the posts definitely aren't perfect or anything. Some of them are kind of like leaning and bent. Some of them are straight down. And they just disappear off to the distance. Then behind that, we've got our grassy area here, which is kind of smoothed out. Um, but we want this hill to kind of be present there. Um, so I'm going to actually draw this grid over the hill there, and then we'll probably hide that grid with some more textures and stuff. And then here we've got little bushes and things. This tree is kind of one of our main compositional components here, odds to the side at least. Um, and then we have like another tree behind it that's going to kind of layer into. We've got lots of trunks back there, creating some verticals, some dark shapes and stuff. Another piece of a tree like right here. Another big tree right here. then more trees that just kind of go back and get smaller and envelop everybody. So this is going to be like a rich, dark area back here, actually. And then over here, this is kind of crowded with like some architectural line work. Yeah, there we go. And then we need to get kind of the sketch of these buildings back here. Um, and then this stuff's going to go back to this vanishing point here. And then we're going to have some kind of blocky structures here with like windows like this. Um, then back here we have this building kind of in front of everything. And it's going to have some tiny little windows and things. And I don't mind doing this if it's like on this scale, if it's like this tiny little area. Sometimes you do have to get in there and draw every window. This is probably one of those situations. All right. We might need to add a little piece of a window here, just to kind of like complete everything. Run it right up to that edge. And then here in the background, there is another building with like tiny, tiny, tiny subdivisions like this that are mostly horizontal. So we'll throw that in there. And have very, very faint like vertical emphasis here that you can kind of see sometimes. So we'll kind of break that up, create more of like this texture feel to it. Yeah. Um, so now we got to keep going and just like work on subdividing this stuff, break up the trees and things, um, and go from there. So what I think the main thrust of this is this like really big shape here. You know, we whenever we have one point perspective, like this is the obvious focal point, and we do have people there, which is convenient. So they're gonna go on like a dark background here, and that's gonna be nice. One of the things that I want to do though is start to like, break up and decide on some lighting for the trees. So here the trees are kind of like, um, they've kind of got a top light sort of source. So they're gonna have like a dark side um, that's kind of on the bottom, and then a light side above it. And then these darks are going to be really dark, so we're probably going to get the black brush pen out for these little detailed areas and start to like actually block in some value here. And to start to like emphasize these shapes. And then if the brush pen kind of like removes nuance and stuff, we can always go back and create more like textural marks and stuff. Work on that edge again. And go through here one more time. Yeah, there we go. And then behind this, there's going to be another tree that's largely dark up here. And then this tree kind of goes more like this here. Get this a little bit broken up. Cool. All right, now we move right along. We're going to go into this area. And these trunks are going to be dark for these trees. There's some deep shadow back here just generally. And then it's going to get a little, there's going to be little slightly lighter parts here. There's actually even some pieces here that are showing like more inorganic shapes behind this tree here. Kind of want that to continue. And then back to the brush pen again. There's little like some bushes here, really dark. And there's like dark patches sort of behind all this stuff. And with this little area, this is all pretty dark right here. And then on this tree, there's some light popping in over here, but not a lot. And then go around that edge. And then most of this tree down here is dark. It's probably a different species of tree because the way the shadows distribute is different. It's hard to tell from reference here. And a lot of this back here is really dark. Well, what I'm kind of thinking now is like when we get down to these heads here, these people, we basically need to surround them in dark so that we can emphasize them properly. And then probably what's going to have to happen is we may have to go back in with the whiteout pen and like dot where their head is so you can actually see it. This is one of those things that you wind up drawing yourself into sometimes. Situations where you put a dark mark down and then you put a dark background behind them and then you have to like reestablish everything again. And then here, we might go in kind of to establish the dark areas again here. Dark areas like all around here. We get like little pops of light through here. We got a light patch like right along here, and then this goes dark again up here. And this kind of is dark. This is dark. So we'll see how these patches distribute. Cool. If you're just joining, welcome. Just hanging out, kind of doing some uh, like urban sketching, mostly with pen and ink right now. We'll add some marker to this probably. And what I'm doing now is like working through the trees because they're the organic part. Um, and to me, when I look at this reference, I'm like, oh, this is the obvious like total dark areas. Um, Most of the architecture has more light on it, so I like to establish some of the really dark areas first sometimes. And then here, if I see extra areas of darkness, I can kind of add them in, you know? Now we're into this little bush right here, which doesn't have as much absolute dark. I think there's a little bit kind of like right here. So we'll add that in, and then we'll stop there. We'll add more dark with a little bit of marker there. So a little bit of darkness kind of on the edge here, but not necessarily within every single one of these plants. There we go. Cool. It's kind of everything for the plant life. Now we'll go back and find some dark areas, some really dark areas in the architecture. Right here, there's a good dark spot right here. Up here is pretty dark too. Let's see how these are. These are pretty dark. These areas right here are not, so we're going to leave those. These are partial dark, where they have like little gradients and stuff in them. We're not going to touch this because this needs to stay in the background. Um, we have dark in some of the windows here. But it's not fully dark. It's like kind of dark. Here we go. All right. Now we need to go back. Hey, looks like some more people tuning in. How's it going? Hope you're having a good day. I am. It's a good day to draw. Every day is a good day to draw. um, so yeah, now we're working on this part of the process where um, we can go back to kind of our main shape here. This is kind of our fussy stuff in the back. Now we get to do the fun things. We make sure the stream's going okay. Double check in on chat. Get worried every time like the screen's timeout. Cool. Um, yeah, now we're gonna have to go through and separate out some of these individual planks. They are made with a certain amount of precision, according to this reference anyway. Um, so these lines do kind of continue across. Looks like this is going to continue over there too, from that plank. Then this plank, we'll use this as the reference for these planks. And then we'll run all the way across like that. So that's going to give us a plank length that's at least this long, probably a little bit longer. Um, so we want these to kind of like decrease their distance as they go. But what I think we'll do is we need this not to be the same. So we need them to be like, maybe like right here when we go through. And so this distance has to just get shorter every time, right? Boom. And then this kind of like disappears, and we can just kind of randomly poke some horizontals there because they're so far away. It doesn't really matter. Just that the hint of the texture goes in there. Hint some over here as well. Um, this is the rail. So what we want to do is like, because it's curved, we want to get the sense that there's some line weight on the one side where it curves. We can also do some things to like, roll where there's like seams in the track. We can roll lines over that and come back and do it over here too. So that like builds that extra sense of dimension for these things. Do that over here too. Now, this is more just like a layout of where these cracks are. What we need are basically like uneven treatment of them. So some of them we want to emphasize as being like larger, the cracks being like really big. So we can go through and start to like use line weight to create the illusion of like shadows in between these things. Now we're kind of getting to the point where this is kind of like drawing each individual board a little bit. This is where the felt tip Pentel pen excels, I think, is just because you can do really thin and really heavy line weight with it. because of the way that it's like flexible and the shape of it. So it's really good for these applications. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're pretty good as far as like the pen layout part of this. Um, Now, if we kind of squint and glance at this, um, this is kind of one of the lightest pieces. I think basically this area and this area are kind of our light areas. Um, this is very dark. This is very middle. So probably what we're gonna do is create. I don't know if we want to go warm or cool with this, but we might do a little mixture where we mix like warm gray and cool gray together. Um, and so now we just want to be sure not to get confused with our markers. um, okay, so I'm reading little bits of like cool dark and warm dark on this rail. This is mostly cool darks here. So I'm thinking like we can start with the rail and end with the neutral gray 5 because it is definitively darker here. There's little highlights that pop in, so we're going to not make it perfectly even, but we'll start with it. So here I think we get a highlight that pops in a little bit, goes back, and then it gets like dark for a second here around where this tree comes in. And it goes and just kind of breaks up and gets dark and breaks up and gets dark as we go back. Um, Here I read this as like a very warm gray area. I read this as like a very cool gray area. And actually this part's darker, so read this as like a cool gray with a highlight. There's some more cool gray like back here if we go way back away. And then I'm reading like the super dark warm gray like right along here. So this isn't color drawing, but what this is doing is taking into account like color temperature. And I think that's a good way to like, if you're uncomfortable with color, to sort of begin working with it. It's kind of nice. Um, so now we're gonna have like the neutral gray 3 cover a segment of this. And here we'll get the chisel tip out. So here we go. And we can actually do this plank by plank, and it's going to look pretty cool if we do it that way, I think. So that the marks kind of go with one particular plank at a time. I can go out and around it, it doesn't really matter that much, but I'm just thinking. We're going to have a little pop here of light, so what we can do is like pull the shadow like right across here. And then we're going to have like little pops where the shadow comes across again. Little pop here, where the shadow comes across. It's going to happen kind of like that. And then we're going to get shadows from these bushes. And then this is going to get kind of our more light down here. Hey, Mr. Fake's tuning in. How's it going? How is your Friday going at the moment? Thanks for hanging out. You got any drawings going on? Day's good so far. Slept a little later than intended, which was good and bad. What are you drawing at the moment? I'm curious. Oh, interesting. So you're doing a study of a sculpture. That's cool. I usually do those when I'm in museums sometimes. Not all the time, but occasionally. Um, yeah, there's a sketching group that meets up every 2 weeks on Sundays where I live, and this guy's been running it for like 7 or 8 years. Um, and a lot of times we do meet up in museums to sketch. It's really nice just to like hang out in cool air conditioned spaces with some art and some other folks that are sketching enthusiasts and work on drawings. But I also like this too because people dropping in the stream too. Everybody's like sketching and hanging out together, and it's good. Builds a sense of community. Speaking of which, start a I'm working on building it out right now and putting in bots, but I'm creating a Discord server for myself and for everybody that kind of has been involved with the YouTube channel and stuff over the years. But it's taken me a while to do because I'm putting in a bunch of resources in there, like um, class notes that I've drawn up or written up, like book recommendations and some free resources, and then I'll have a section for like when I start up YouTube memberships and stuff. I'll have sections for that where there's like free references um, to use for like any commercial use or practice or whatever you want. Um, and even more extended notes and stuff, and some like more in-depth video stuff too. So I think this shape is kind of working. We're getting like a little bit of this gradient now. Um, this mm, grass, I'm gonna go probably with the warm gray 5 and just see how that looks. We can cool it down too. Yeah, I think if you look around in your town, there's gonna be some kind of art community there. Like, there's a lot of like every town has their artist-driven things. You just gotta find it. Like I used to live in a small town. There are only like 17,000 permanent residents and like 17,000 college students that would come in periodically when the semester was in session. Um, and there was still like like active and thriving art community there. So um, there's that there is that possibility out there. Even like no matter where you live, there's going to be some people that are into it, kind of trying to make it happen. Um, just we want to create like this gradient too. Gets kind of light back there, gets dark here, gets light for a second and gets dark again. Gets pretty dark as we come down here. But then there's like a little light pop maybe over here or something. So yeah, here I want to go right along this edge, make sure I don't mess it up. Need to put some grass right over that edge so that it works out okay. Oh, you never meet up to draw. Interesting. What keeps you from meeting up to draw? Is it just like you're all comfortable in your home studios and everything? Or is it just like, are they not as passionate as you and don't sketch as much? Yeah. Yeah, I think it is tough to find a group, but yeah, you should do it. You should like just say, "Hey, let's go bring sketchbooks to the coffee shop or something like that. Get lunch and sketch, that kind of stuff." Especially if there are cool places to hang out and that have interesting things to draw, you know? Drawing stuff in person would be really fun. All right. I think we need the W3 in there to like transition these gradients a little bit. So I don't want this to get super bright white. Yeah, try to convince them. I don't know, maybe that's the thing. Like sometimes artists get like introverted, you know? I think I do feel lucky to live where I do, that there is like a pre-existing art community that I didn't have to like create myself. I feel very, honestly, very lucky um, that's the case. You're always welcome to, you know, um, show some images and stuff, and let me see what you're working on. I always enjoy that, you know. Time to time, people do send me stuff. I don't always have time to like comment in depth, but it means a lot to me to be thought of that people want to want to send me things. It's cool, you know. Streaming, that's a good question. How often do I stream? Lately more because I have a light teaching schedule in the summers usually. Um, I my times are so random that I just kind of do them impromptu, but I'm trying to get to the point where I can get organized enough and to actually schedule out some streams. But I'm trying to do them right now at least like once or twice a week. Um, uh, Afternoons have been working out for me or like East Coast US time. Um, so that's been kind of when I've been looking to stream. And I'm also trying to make videos as well, like long form stuff to support everything and to kind of put ideas together in a more logical way. Um, yeah, I'm working on, um, yeah, you can share. I don't know if you can put images into the chat. It'd be cool if you can. Um, if not, you can email. Email is just my name at Gmail. Um, or you can send me like an Instagram message or something like that if you have your work on Instagram. That usually works out pretty good too. Let's see here. Do This has a lot of shadow on it, so we're gonna go in with neutral gray 5 onto the warm gray and see how that looks. I don't really know if that's gonna work out well, but we'll try it. This feels like it should be, the rest of this should be in the W or the neutral gray 8. Oh yeah, that's okay. I don't make qualitative judgments on people's art. I teach college and I focus on teaching beginners and early intermediates. I don't normally teach advanced artists, so you know, I get people that are like in my classes who are like, retired and maybe in their 60s and just want to like learn to draw for the heck of it because it's something that they've enjoyed and put off because they just build up careers and other things, and it just needs to take a certain place in their life. They're not necessarily, they're retired. They don't want to make it their job. They just want something to further their education and they just feel like this desire to continue on like that. I do have people that are like, yeah, I want to be a professional artist, like of course, and we'll push we'll push the quality level as high as we can. Um, but it's like learning journeys are different for everybody. Mine's very long. Um, yeah, I don't know how much in depth of a critique I can do, but I can definitely take a look and see what I see if I have any like real quick tips for you. Um, I probably ought to do like a critique stream at some point. Just have everybody send me some stuff and take a look. Um, I think what I'll probably do is include that in one of the YouTube membership tiers where you can like send stuff and I'll do like a monthly critique stream or something. Um, and just kind of like formalize it that way. So I think that could work really good. That could be really interesting. Um, Critiques are always interesting for me to do as well. I like doing them because I think that's like the lifeblood of my classes when I'm teaching is like the back and forth, and I can usually figure out some stuff to help people out. All right, I'm gonna take a look at your Instagram page right now. As Quan artist, cool. S. Quan artist. We'll look it up. Uh, Give me 1 second. I'll check it out. So this is coming along too. Um, One of the fun things that I like to do is since I'm streaming, I have the stream preview on the computer and I can see like a little mini version of this so I can kind of see the overall view. And then when I'm up close to it, I'm seeing like the kind of uh, what I guess you would call it the myopic view. Like we're seeing like all the detail, but like what really comes across is like as visual impact is the view you get far away. Let's see here. Do search s. I wouldn't say your art's bad. I think that's like being a little harsh, you know? Like you understand how to do rendering. I imagine that you're sticking close to a lot of references and stuff and comic copies and things. I mean, I think the thing is to work on like your ability to finish is good. I think the thing to work on is just structuring things, you know. That's almost always going to be what I tell people to check to work on. Um, is to like is to use like um, use your simple structural shapes to do everything, you know. I think that's like the biggest thing, right? Is to like spend some time with basic forms. And I saw a good I saw a good quote from someone who's actually just a dance teacher, and or she like reposted it, and it's like um, beginners um, be, have beginners basics, and advanced people have advanced basics. And it's just like, ah, yes, that is an amazing way to think about it, like that as an advanced sketcher or whatever, like your basics are better. It's not that your advanced stuff is better, it's just that the simple stuff you do looks cool. Um, hey, Sadman, how's it going? You've also got a YouTube channel posting posting some stuff on there, I think, which is good. We're gonna have a little light area that runs through here. Then this is gonna darken up, I think. I think this will be the neutral gray 8 right through here. 80% grays. So dark but not black. And then this has some, I think overall value here is the neutral gray 3. So I'm going to fill this building with the 3. Yeah, today's theme that I was kind of thinking of is like big, bold shapes. Um, as just a general like default here. We're going to make this, ooh, this should be warm 3. Let's do that instead. Boom, warm gray 3. There we go. That's going to look better. And this will be W5 around the corner, because this building is like a warmer color building. So is this one back here, and this one we're gonna have a lot of these windows covered over with value, and then some need to be um, showing some light here. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I think I followed you on TikTok. If I did not, um, I will do so. I'm trying to make short form content for TikTok as well, and try to do little things that are different, for each platform. Like I think YouTube has its advantages, TikTok has its advantages. So I'm trying to like make it such that I'm taking advantage of like what each platform has to offer. Also, I'm seeing some like worm pop into here too, which is kind of nice. So we'll add in some worms. This section I feel like needs to go darker with the warm gray 8. And kind of create like a little bit more gradient that goes there, and then maybe use this to like, I want to pop some grass over here so that this integrates better. switch from digital to traditional. Your light pad. Interesting. Oh, do you mean like light pad, like an animation style light box, that kind of thing? Oh yeah, cool. That's awesome. I feel like I used to have one around the house. I think I donated it to um the college where I worked. Let's deepen this too. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, like the one that I had was like old, and so it had just like these giant fluorescent lights in there, like hummed and buzzed. It was kind of annoying. But I figured, maybe some student at the college would make use of it eventually. Um, One of the things probably that we can do is like work on little details of this edge here for a second, make it seem a little grassy. Might be able to do some things here. I mean, I think this is probably pretty done as far as the sketch goes. It doesn't have to be like super finished or anything. I'm just kind of taking a look. I should probably close the blind a little bit too. It's introducing some light, which is messing with my head. Yeah, I had I have less trouble with digital work now. I did for a long time, years probably. When I really started focusing on it, I was like, this is not working out. And because I feel like my digital work, like the lines wouldn't be good, line quality was bad, everything was awkward, and then there was like this digital cheese factor, like stuff would just look cheesy, um, and it was rough. Yeah, yeah, like overhead projectors. Yeah, I think some of the problems with digital work is just like um the tools and equipment, until you get like kind of decent stuff, um it's just not as sensitive. It is unnatural. Um but I think drawing isn't very natural. We're learning something that isn't, is kind of not normal in a way. Um because it's not natural to like think in these forms and everything like that, and to do something weird. I think it's we are doing something that's a little bit different to what we would instinctively do. I think one of the differences, like, kids draw naturally, right? And they draw with total confidence. And then once you start learning to draw, then you're like, wow, okay, this is really an unnatural thing. And so what you're trying to do is basically uh, train your intuition to draw like with technique, but make it seem natural. What I'm kind of trying to do with these urban sketches is like this is sort of a more typical one with like a low horizon line. And what I'm trying to do is break out and try different things where the horizon line's high here. And then in the other sketchbook, I tried one, but you know, I tried this idea where, or maybe I've tried two now, where you're kind of like just staring flat at a wall and it's like straight on. And then here, this isn't quite flat because you do see a side here, but you are just kind of facing the building. So it becomes more about how rectangles are broken up. Because yeah, most of these urban sketches, what I'll do is I'll keep the horizon line kind of below half, or even really, really low at like the 20%, or even like so low that it's off the page. So everything, when you're kind of looking up, it just becomes about shapes in the sky and less about perspective. Here's one looking down, um, where the horizon's above the page, which I like a lot. But most of what I wind up doing, the horizon's pretty low. 'Cause it's safe, you know. So what I'm trying to do is get into modes that are a little more different, a little more dangerous, more risk that I won't pull these things off, you know. Um, and the reference photo was much bigger, right? Like it had all this stuff around it. And so what I did was like crop that down to what you see on the chat to kind of like make this really good. Oh yeah, for the iPad, that's a good comment. Yeah, Krita is really good. Um, yeah, you kind of the UI is a little weird, but it's free. Um, the iPad mods, there's this company called AstroPad, which apparently is really good. I don't really use an iPad very much, but they have like a magnetic paper texture cover, and they also have a sort like a ballpoint um, nib replacement for the pencil. And my friends that do draw on an iPad use that, and they say that it's like that's the way to go is to use that. So if I were ever to like draw on an iPad, I would probably use that. But I use PC stuff, you know. Um, I just don't like the file management on Macs. It aggravates me. So put this sketchbook to the side and draw something else. Um, Let me look through some references and see if I want to keep doing urban sketching stuff or if I want to try something else entirely. Try to undo mistakes drawing on paper. That's so good. So funny. I feel you though. Um, I get it completely. Really funny. Um, just so funny. I think I might. I think I might make an attempt um, at this clock. Let me put the reference up on the screen here. Replace this reference um, with a different one. Okay. Do settings. Um, I think I took this at a museum. Okay. I'll have to remove the cropping here. There we go. Yeah, I took this picture at a museum, and it's interesting. It's kind of a neat little clock here. What I like about this reference too is that it's got a cool shadow pattern. Um, this time I kind of want to draw like uh, more towards um, oh yeah, so you kind of like do a semi-tracing thing. Is that what you're talking about? So you draw better on paper. Since you have the light pad, print the reference, put the copy paper over, and map out the lineups. They get rid of the reference and draw over the sketch. Yeah, it's kind of like a little half trace, half um, drawing process. Yeah, that works. Cool. We got started with this. I think with this thing, I want to uh, do more like the traditional kind of mapping out of how this works before I start on it. This one's complex, to say the least. Got basically like this coming up above it. Yeah, I mean that's legit. I um I know like tons of illustrators and storyboard artists who trace when needed. If it speeds up to trace, they do it. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, everybody go check out Sasman's stuff. I haven't looked at all of it yet. Someday though. So what I usually do with this is I try to do like a little flat thing. Um, Not even really like a good study, but just to like get the idea of what's going on with it. And then too, sometimes I'll also do things like just say, okay, well, this is the basic form. We're on like a two-sided box showing more front than side. So we're on that kind of structure. And then, centering above that's like somewhere up here. And so that's where our little cone is going to be. So we're going to have something like this happen. And then we'll have these little side panels come in like that, stick up, and then we'll have this little panel come up and stick up like that. And then we'll see this underside of the ellipse there, kinda. And then the clock is gonna go here, or the clock face is gonna go here, but it has to stick out past on both sides. Now we see the base of the clock, kind of see more detail here. Boom, boom, boom. Then we need to see where these things hit on the ground. And Sasman, you have a TikTok as well, right? Oh, that's cool. I don't post as much on YouTube. I'm gonna start though. I need to do that. YouTube's kind of where where my biggest, I guess the biggest following is at the moment. So here we're gonna blow this up. Start here. Nothing to it, but to give it a shot. I think this needs to be thinner. So go to there. Then our upper part is going to be somewhere up here. This is kind of more oval shaped, and then this is more circular down here. So we are going to see this come in like that inside it. And then here we have our little rail thing coming up like that. Another one coming up back here. Another one coming up back here. And then we have this thing coming up like so. And then our center line is going to be about here. And then over here, we've got the same sort of thing happening. Boom, boom, down, about to there. Center's going to be about there. Something sort of like that. And then clock face. It's going to start up here, go out, down, go out and around like so. Line doubles up, that. Center goes here. But then this is offset, so shadows there. Center's there. And then this area sticks out past. So that gets built out. That gets built out a little bit. That sticks out some. That sticks out some. We go out, across, down, out, down. It's going to sit on the floor like so. Maybe we see a little piece of the other one down there, maybe not. Depends on the slight shifts in angle. And then here we see gearworks and complicated junk. Yeah, people selling AI art. Yeah. Yeah. I don't like gatekeeping either, but you know, um, I am gonna do some paid resource stuff in the future because you know, it is my career after all. Um, but I do want to keep lots and lots of free stuff up on YouTube, just because like, it's needed. But for the paid stuff, I want to reserve that for things that are just too in depth for the YouTube environment. Like, because there's like a certain depth that you want, that you can get in like long form paid content stuff that isn't like YouTube friendly, I believe is probably a way to say it. But yeah, like even in the classes that I teach, we don't have enough time to actually go through all of the information in the way that I would like to go through it, to build like full understanding of all the basic material. So I'm working on it right now. Actually, I'm working on the first one. The first one's just going to be like an order of how you would start to learn, but the first one's basically just planes and forms. Um, and I've done like YouTube videos and stuff on it, but nowhere near the degree of detail that I'm going to into this. And what I'm kind of sectioning it off it as is like the non-technical portion, but then the technical portion is like separate from that, and then there's going to be like a self-check section so that you can know how to like what to look for in your own work. Um, how long have I been teaching? This is my 11th year of teaching college, or actually my 11th year of teaching college just finished. So I'm like in the summer right after the 11th year. Um, so it's a long time. Um, and I have like a lot of students that are done with college and like off into their art careers and stuff. Um, a lot of people have gone into like successfully into graphic design. Um, I think that my newest crop of students is more into like illustration, animation. So I'm interested to see like where their careers go in the long term. I have faith that they'll be able to do it, break into the industry and be successful if that's what they want to do. Because sometimes it changes. You start one place and you wind up in another. Yeah, that's a good question. Um, and teaching's fun. I kind of started like just doing fine art and not really thinking as much about teaching. Um, and then once I kind of got more into it, I was like, hey, this is actually kind of cool. I enjoy this. So that's when I went back into like from abstract painting into more drawing based stuff because a lot of what my students like needed was somebody who could teach drawing and so I just like went back and rebuilt drawing skills differently. Like I loved drawing in school. It was like my favorite thing to do in art school. It's just like hang out and draw. Um, but now like things are different. Like I think the bar is really high for being able to draw. Um, and so like the drawing teaching had to change. Like the bar for drawing teaching had to go up a little bit. So I had to like really work on my drawing skills. I'm still working on them. Like never satisfied really. Um, but teaching's kind of cool because it like forces you to like articulate what it is that you're doing and why. And in many ways, that can improve your drawing. Um, I mean, there's a little like less time. I have to like balance out time for my own like improvement and like what I'm teaching. So I feel like sometimes I like focus way more on teaching than on like me getting better. So I'm still searching for balance there. So I feel like if I get better, then I have more to teach. So it should cycle back around well. I think one of the funny things about this is you look at it and you're like, this is really complicated. And then when you get into it and start like breaking it down, it becomes like increasingly achievable the further you go with it, especially if you do these things first, which a little, I call these like a flat and a dimensional study. Um, and I always try to do those where um, we just do like the drawing flat, no perspective, just shape, and then you go ahead and convert that to like simple forms, and then you go for it after that. So you've done like this preparatory work that allows you to just relax into the drawing process because you've already kind of familiarized yourself with the shape and proportion. Learn more when I teach it. I don't know. I, I hear that all the time. I don't know that that's fully true. Um, I think right now there are more learning resources out there than when I started learning. So I have learned more since I started learning to draw. Um, is it because I'm teaching? Not sure. Um, am I more motivated to like improve my skills because I have to like draw in front of people? Somewhat, yeah. Um, but that's not the only like motivation for it, I guess. Um, yeah, it's like it's kind of it's a tough question to answer. I mean, like you have to know something well enough to be able to teach it and to get it across to people. Well, a lot of my teaching drawings, if I bring out the teaching sketch pad, a lot of my teaching drawings aren't that good, um, because what I'm doing is like exaggerating to teach, um, and then like I do that on purpose because sometimes when you watch people sketch, like it's unachievably good, and I never wanted to be a teacher that like just because I'm like I draw something really well that like intimidates people, um, and makes them go like, "Oh man, this guy's really good. I could never do that." I never want that to like be a thought for students because that's kind of like that could wind up in sort of like a sort of paralysis mode, you know? And I think that would be bad. So I try to like think about it as when I teach, I want to draw at like what I consider to be like an achievable level for students to get to, and I try to distinguish modes of drawing where like most of the time we're in this mode where we draw to analyze, not to produce. Um, and to me, that's kind of critical to think of it and to like think of the purpose for drawing in a different way. I also know what it's like to be a beginner at stuff too, you know. Like I went to go down and teach in Georgia. The couple of years ago now, or I guess like yeah, I left almost 2 years ago and came back to where I am now. But um, I picked up like surfing when I was down there, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what it's like to really be new at something, you know? It's like really uncomfortable. You're you're trying, you want to like achieve results, but you can't. Focus on that, otherwise things go worse than they normally would. Um, and so you just have to like hunker down and like kind of focus on just like, achieving being a good beginner, you know? And that's a skill in itself too. It's like being mentally accepting of the fact that like, oh, this isn't gonna go well, but I need to work on this concept, and you know, though I didn't do this correctly, uh, like overall, I am improving on these in these ways, right? And being cognizant of like where the improvement lies and stuff like that. Um, I think that's a big part of like being a good beginner, and like being a good teacher, I think is to like understand what makes a good beginner and how to encourage people to be good beginners. And that's why I think, sometimes you find really good teachers who are just like unknown artists, but they have these like amazing teaching skills and they have a lot of empathy for the for the beginner, And I think that's like a big thing that helps in terms of teaching. And it helps people who are learning too, because you get somebody who understands what that's like, because they're trying to learn something too. And teaching too is like a lot of it is about just people. It's like these people that you're teaching, whatever age or stage of life they're at, or whatever college they're at, community college, university, it doesn't really matter. Like, you know, like you're relating to your students, you're like encouraging students to like work with each other and develop bonds that way, and you're trying to like help them like build their support system and communities too. So like there is this kind of social part of teaching where you're really encouraging people to like develop the the social component of learning to do art. I don't know about talent. I just think it's like I think a lot of it's like time spent. Everything that I've learned has been hard fought. Like um, I have learned like ultimately I believe that I have learned very very slowly over the years, um, and I think I still have a lot to learn and a lot of ways to grow. Um, some people wind up being better. I think just because like sometimes people take to it earlier and they have like parents who encourage them. Sometimes like those are toxic. Sometimes they can be toxic of like parents who overly encourage people, you know. And sometimes it's fine, but like generally speaking, artists that get really good have like support systems behind them. They're not doing it alone. Um, they've got people in their corner that are like encouraging them, fighting them, supporting them financially. Um, there's luck involved for sure. Like I feel like a lot of my art career has been like taking advantage of lucky situations of like just timing. Um, like I happen to be like applying for a job at the right time or being in the right place at the right time or like knowing this or that person and being like having my skills ready at that right time, you know? Um, and those are kind of like things you can't really control as much. You just work your way into them, I guess, some ways. Yeah, hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard, right? There's nothing worse than squandered promise, I think, you know, when when you see that like there could be potential and then it just doesn't really get realized, you know? I think some of the people that have like advanced the quickest have in my classes like they come in and they're just ready to learn. They're like mentally flexible. And I think that's a skill too, is like coming into class being like, okay, yeah, like, you know, this person's got something to teach me. I'm ready to learn it. I'm going to like, you know, take this class for all that it's worth. And you know, you do get students that are like that. And and I think what you're looking for is more just like the idea that there's like growth in the class and that continues. And then I had one kid who just like he just like shot up in his skill levels in this drawing two class. Like his drawing one teacher was just okay, coming in like real average skill. You know, nothing like wow, this kid's amazing. And then but like through the course, he just like worked his he worked his tail off the entire time and and just wound up like really killing it. And the coolest thing is like he'll still post his work and he's still using and developing those technical ideas that we explored in class even a couple years like 3 or 4 years later. So like he just keeps getting better because he's like he actually took the information into the class and like integrated it into his work. And I think um, that's like a real strength that is rare, you know. There's very few students that I've had like that like continue to work and develop like and actually take the class ideas and like integrate them fully into what they're trying to do. Um, what I find frustrating um, as a teacher is um, when students come in and they produce these amazing pieces for class and they take to the concepts and they seem to understand what's going on and then they go back to just like doing the thing they're comfortable doing and they get some their social media attention that they're used to. Um, that I find really unfortunate, and it happens regularly. And it's like, well, I taught you this thing so that you could integrate it into your work, not so that you could learn it once for the assignment and then like abandon it and not use it for your personal benefit. You know. Um, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think it could be sometimes. I think it's more like the attitude of the person that's coming in. If the person's coming in and they're like ready to learn and they have like the mental flexibility to be willing to make changes, I think that's the biggest thing. Um, you know, it's I think it's mental flexibility and buy-in on the combo. And I do what I can as a teacher to encourage that and to like, you know, help people to like try to be like show off enough and to like show people like the techniques and things and to like have my own skills developed so I can be a little bit of an inspiration. Um, but a lot of it is on like the individual to buy into the class that it's worthwhile and to buy into like the idea that this is learnable and you can get it, you know. Um, and then if they come in and they're flexible and they're like, oh yeah, I can change my habits, you know, like then I think people tend to learn fast, you know. And I think I've had that happen with people that are really experienced, you know, like had one one lady come in who was retired and just learning, and she came in already really good, um, with a lot of developed drawing skill, and she was ready to make changes. And so she like took everything that I said and just like, you know, crushed it. Like made just truly excellent, consistent work the entire time. It was amazing. It was really incredible. Um, and she seemed to carry it off without a lot of like difficulty. But then you talk to her and she's like, "Yeah, that was really hard. I spent like hours and hours and hours trying to like do this, do it again and again and again." So she was like putting in the time too. So that was cool, you know. Um, I love those moments when that happens. Yeah, you can't teach someone who isn't willing to learn. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. I think, and you get like what's interesting too is like you get certain people together in classes, and like the magic just sort of happens. Like sometimes there's the social situations and the social pressures they put on each other, like can scale a group upwards, and sometimes it can kind of not. You know, it can cause like people just talk and they get along well, but then they're just distracted all the time. And then other times you get groups where they like put the sort of peer pressure on each other that like they're all gonna get good together, you know? Um, and that is incredible when that happens. Like when you get a whole crew of people that are like really into it and really into like each other's work and they're encouraging, like that's the coolest thing on the planet, you know? I mean, I love it when that happens. I think the other thing too is this is also about like long-term longevity and consistency over time, right? Like it's not about like how much can you learn and how fast. It's about like can you stick it out year after year after year to learn and get better and improve, you know? Because like just learning to draw is like a 2-year time commitment, I think. Maybe longer. It took longer for me. Um, I'm still learning, still getting better, still trying to improve, you know? Um, I think having the expectation, yeah, I think expectations in high school are, you know, very different, right? Like the part of this too is like these are the reasons that people go to art school. And like you'll see on YouTube, like people like people are just like going after views by saying like you don't need to go to art school, and it's like the reason people go to art school is not to like get like a degree that gets them into the industry. You know, like that's never a guarantee that you go from like art school to industry, you know. Um, like the reason to go to art school is because you're around other people who are just as excited about it as you. And like that's why you go, you know. And you like your professors are usually excited about it too. and they're trying to do their best to like help you out, you know, assuming you go to the right sort of place for you. So I mean, I'm kind of pro art school. And now like a lot of high schools in the US like they don't even have like a full art program, you know, because they just like lost money, um, and funding always gets cut, you know. Same with music, and I think other departments too. It's like math even gets like defunded sometimes and things, you know. Um, it's just kind of rough here in the U.S. sometimes with what to do about educations and things. Yeah, I think the other thing to think about too is like I think you do need college degrees for job purposes because you do like at a certain point want to manage people. And if your interest is in art now, but then maybe like you get interested in something else that's unrelated later, you know, even if you have an art degree, it's still a degree, you know. You still have like uh, you still have some level of qualifications that can get you work, you know, and um, it's not then a barrier. I think what happens is if you don't have a degree, it becomes like a barrier eventually, and you just can't succeed without a degree. Yeah, a lot of mainstream art content is surface level content. Yeah, that's because, you know, like like they want you to buy their thing, you know? Um, and I think that's also like part of the YouTube algorithm is like the the sort of like popularity contest that is like algorithmic like results and things like that. Just kind of encourages that surface level like lowest common denominator stuff. Because some people like, you know, they're not in it to like really learn. They just want to see people draw awesome, you know, which is totally valid. You know, sometimes you want to see like people just, you know, work at their craft at the highest level. Um, not everybody's out there to like learn everything, you know. Yeah. No, like algorithmic changes and like, you know, working within the platform are a little bit funky. Um, I mean, this channel is bigger than I thought it would ever be, honestly. Like, there's 12,000 subscribers. Like, it's that's insane to me. I never thought that like I would have more than 100. Um, I just didn't really realize like how big it could potentially go, you know? Yeah. Um, I mean, eventually I think I would like how it I would like to have a larger following, of course, and like grow the channel and everything. I don't think anybody wouldn't want to do that, but I also don't want it to be like I don't want it to like get to that point. Like I want to provide access, you know? Like that's part of like the mission for me. That's part of why I teach at like um a variety of colleges and like I've taught community college and everything like that because like people need access to knowledge and like that's what I want to do with the channel is provide access to knowledge um and like even though I am like making some paid stuff, I don't want it to be like prohibitively expensive. Like I think this beginner course that I'm working on, even though it's going to be like hours of content, many hours of content to look over, like I don't want it to be more than like 10 or 15 bucks or something, you know? And like the YouTube subscriptions I think I'm working on are like um, membership tiers will be like two $2, $5, and $10 or something like that. Um, Nothing like super crazy expensive. Um, they don't need to be, you know. Um, yeah, yeah. Tired of getting the bare minimum on our tutorials. Yeah, I think on my channel I'm trying to strike a balance, you know, like there is enough to like go off of, you know. I think the thing that you're not getting is like the continual feedback, you know, and I think if you're really gonna pay for like memberships and stuff like that and courses, like you want the feedback, um, you know. So that's why like it's still valuable to take a course and pay like 500 or 600 for it because you do get the feedback, you know. Um, like I have purchased some like video tutorials and sometimes I get buyer's remorse and then sometimes I'm like, oh, this is amazing, this is great, this is exactly what I needed, you know. Um, so I think it just really depends on the resource and how well put together it is in terms of like not necessarily production value, but in terms of like how good are they at articulating the information, you know, and figuring out like distilling down what's important and packaging that in a way that's understandable. Yeah. Um, I don't watch many art YouTubers, so I don't know what's going on with that. I can see that happening totally. That like people still make art and they just um, their content doesn't get that many views. Um, I mean, the other thing that happens too is like people get really big and then they're not as much involved on the channel and they kind of like um, have to farm stuff out to like people they've trained or pull a variety. Like I've noticed that on the Proco channel, like Proco is not much on it anymore. Um, it used to be the Proco channel, you know. Um, and I get what that is. Like you get busy, you know. But I think too, like people really want to hear from like particular folks, you know. Um, and it's like if I'm taking a class from somebody, I want to like hear from them, not just their TA, you know, a teaching assistant. Yeah, Proco I think is kind of like a good model for it. Like it is a little bit infotainment-y sometimes, right? But that's to be expected because it is YouTube and it is infotainment, right? But but yeah, so it is like enough to go on. Um, Proco's in more of the rendering camp sometimes, like too rendering oriented for me. Like I don't like classical rendering that much. That's like a personality thing, I think. Like I just don't like to spend that much time with like really rendering lighting effects. I prefer just to like kind of bluntly do stuff. Like even now I'm thinking more blunt than render. Even though it kind of like I figured out this way of like fake rendering stuff, you know, where it looks like there's more work in it than there is. So that's where my head's at, you know. Yeah, yeah. Lessons and information are presented clearly. Yeah. I think the missing element is the feedback, right? Like you gotta go to somebody and get feedback on your work, you know. It's like, did I pull this off? Like, what should I change? And how can I really make this better? I think it's easy though too to get like disillusioned when you watch like someone like Broco or draw because it's like, man, that's too good. It's just too good. Like, relationship, your what's the relationship between hue and value? It's just like a component of color. Like uh so we can do this really easy with markers. Let me get out my color markers here. Hang on. We'll switch modes into teaching mode. Is this my marker thing? No, that is not the marker bag. That's the color marker bag. Um, Basically it's just like one component. So like, um, for this you have basic ideas. You have like color, right? It has three components. Like one component is, like you said, the hue. And the hue is basically like, which color is it on the color wheel? Right value is another one. How dark is it? And then the other component is like saturation. This could also be called chroma. Like that's more of an old school word. Um, Saturation is like, you know, if the color wheel's here, right, and black and white are like grays are in here, like how close is it in saturation to the color wheel bright color? So that's it, like your three components, your hue, value, and saturation, right? And if we were to do like, if we were to do some color work, like let's take a couple colors here, like like this works really good if we take a neutral gray like 5 for most of these colors. So neutral gray 5 is 50% gray, right? Um, so that's dead center in the middle between black and white. So we can trust like this is going to be like a reliable middle. Um, then if we take two colors, so that this red violet right here has very little saturation, right? It's not close to the color wheel color. Um, uh, and it is light in value, right? It's lighter than the 50%. This is a violet, right? It is more saturated, like not quite as desaturated as this like pinkish red violet, not quite as saturated as like the full color wheel color, right? Um, like a full color wheel color would be something like this garnet red Copic here. Like this is getting pretty close to like the full strength of a color wheel color, right? Um, Let me make sure that everything's cool with the stream still. Yeah. Um, Let me close the blinds a little more. So the video is starting to get messed with. Yeah. Okay, so now we're like, this red's pretty close to like color wheel red. Like this one is like, says it's coral. This one's pretty close too. Um, this one's kind of darker. This one's lighter, right? Um, so like, yeah, this blue right here is also like a desaturated blue, right? It is more saturated than this. This is like a deeper and even more saturated blue, right? So what we're working with here are basically, the value is shifting, but what you'll notice is that the saturation in these colors really changes. Um, the hue is different, right? But like the saturation of this blue versus this blue is different, as well as the value, right? So you try to separate those things out to study them. Um, and then if we take the ones that are like this red, we could take this yellow as well. Anything that's lighter than this neutral gray 5 will work on this concept. So the only one that's out is really this dark blue and this dark red. Um, but what we can do is overlay them over this gray, and you'll see how the gray changes, preserves its value, but changes its hue and its saturation, right? So we'll take this. Um, we'll do unrelated colors or less related colors next to each other. So we'll take the yellow, put that next to that, right? And this is going to change the sort of nature of the gray. But what's interesting is because we put that gray down, the value of it's going to get preserved as the colors change over it. So this is like one of the cooler things about color is that you can actually do like color, like a full drawing in black and white, and then you can do color overlay to get your color with marker, right? Now, what happens is if we were to take this 50% gray and then put this blue over it, it actually is going to deepen the value down. So what you would want to think about combining is like um, thinking about using it on its own, or just knowing that that value is going to overshoot, or having this with a deeper underlayer, right, where we have the 80% gray, and then when we layer over this blue, like it gets deep and saturated, right? Um, so it's kind of like using these little gray tones in combination with it. And like if we wanted to with this, we could just go over with like a bunch of different yellows on top of it, and like maybe some reddy or like orange things like this yellow red. I don't know. I call it yellow red orange. You know. Um, but like this potentially could go over this pretty readily. Um, I'd say it would work fine in a lot of this stuff. And this could just screw up the sketch completely, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. It's just a sketch. And then probably what we'd want to do is use this in some places, and then use like, um, I don't know what this yellow, the difference is between yellow 35 and yellow 19. They're both intense. There's very little difference. I think we'll probably use this one. This one's like less saturated, but like this we could throw in like little places on here, right? Start thinking about where we could like bump up some of these colors and things. Now, what happens is when you do this, then you have to think about like, oh, well, how do I now get colors to balance, right? So now your concern becomes like um, not just value, but like color balancing. Um, and so the risk here is that if you don't do it right, yeah, it could get messed up, but it's like, you know, again, it's just a sketch. It doesn't really matter that much, you know. I screw up sketches all the time. Um, I think literally you learn through failure. Like I don't think there is another way to learn, because you learn, you try something, you mess it up, you try something different, right? Like, and basically your feedback loop is like, oh, well, that didn't work. Let me do this differently. Um, And the quicker you can go through those like processes of like being aware and making changes as you go, like the faster you learn, I think. This probably needs to go darker just generally, so probably we'll take the W5 and work that over that. It's an interesting effect of like putting this over the white out too, which is kind of cool. And here, this little the bell needs to get a bunch of this over it. I didn't expect to take this one into color, but this is fun. We're going to do this, and then I think we're going to put the W8 back over that. Like once you do, like, it's like once you go down the path of like adding in color, then you kind of have to like run with it all the way and see it to its conclusion, you know? Just have to embrace it. The other thing that we're going to do is because we're using yellow, it only makes sense to also include violet because complementary colors rock with each other. It's like just like the best way to do junk. So we'll probably like take some of these warm grays and like work it back a little bit. Um, Given up, yeah. I kind of like did give up a little bit and approximated a lot. Um, I think the trick is like figuring out a level of detail that's like workable. You know, some people would probably like get every little detail, but like at a certain point, like that's not the focus. Um, and that you have to pick and choose like the idea of approximating versus showing directly. And for a lot of things, I think you can just approximate and get close. And then the W5 has to go over on this side because this has to get darker. Because what we need to preserve is like, this is the light side, this is the dark side. So we need to like go back and reinforce that that's the case. Um, we probably should do a little bit more like surface decoration in here because this is all like etched out. Um, and I'll have to zoom in. Oh, it's flowers. Interesting. Okay. Um, so what we'll have to do is probably like just include uh, what I'm thinking is like little bits where I want to show like where the shadow catches it and a little bit of where the light catches it. But I don't want to go in and draw like the whole entire pattern. So what I'll do is do like bits and pieces because I know the light's coming from there, so I can draw in like little arcs and pieces of the shadows and where some of the textures come in from the side in that shadow. I can include that. By the way, I'm super excited that you guys are like making some connections here. That's awesome. I really want the channel to become like very community oriented. That's kind of like my end game goal with it. Debating whether to put in the numbers. I mean, I feel like I don't want to, but I might have to. Ugh, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll leave it for a day and then come back and finish it. Anyway, so we're there, and then um, complementary colors work. It could also be, you could use like a violet or a blue. Since this is warm, blue, like if you think about it, if you take this W, this warm gray, like if you add blue in there, it's gonna create, because this has a little red, it's gonna create a, sort of a violet feel. So we'll do a little test over to the side where we take like this, and then we're gonna take the violet. We'll take the desaturated and the saturated and see how this combines out well. I mean, I think the violet looks better, so I think we're gonna have to go with the violet in the shadows. Yeah, so now we're getting into like these points where we're like really getting into the color aspect. Not my intention, but hey, like we started talking about color. I had the color markers out, so now it's happening. So what I want to think of is basically like warm, cool, right? So now I've got this cool color marker out. So what I start doing is basically cooling down the shadow areas where if I look at my reference, I'm thinking like, oh, well that's not getting a lot of light. The light source is really warm. So what we want to do is cool down the dark side, right? Um, One of the other things that doesn't matter as much is now that you have like this line drawing done, um, going coloring outside the lines doesn't matter as much. You can like, because the marker is kind of soft and thicker, like it doesn't really matter if you miss and mess it up some. Don't think you can manage a YouTube channel. It is a fair amount of work. You could do it though. It's if you prioritize it and you enjoy it, like you can do it. I think it's like setting your expectations though for like what you want to create and what you want to get into. Um, I want this W8 back. So I think this should be darker. And I see some potential for adding like little reds in here too. These little more pinky areas up here. Even in here, I see some like potential for this to shift and go more red. I also think this could probably go into some of the violet and go a little darker here. Into the W5 slightly. This too could go into the W5 here. Um, Maybe we could add blue. Let's see. Do a little test of like what the blue could look like in the deep shadows. Subtle. Perfect. Then we'll take some of the violet and like pull that blue down back into the blue violet range. Could be fun to sneak something here too. Sweet. All right. Next is back to this white out. This edge doesn't have as much black there. So I think this edge has to get changed to where this is like more like that. Oh, and then this comes down too. Then when that dries, probably just a little bit of this guy again. That was that extra line was kind of bugging me. Then make sure that we get this up here. I don't think we got any color up here. And then this needed to go dark under here, like a little heavier. Yeah, there we go. I think that's gonna have to be the drawing hall for today. I am out of time to continue streaming. Let's see here. So yeah, you know, a good little sketch haul for today. Um, didn't really know where it was gonna go, but I'm kind of happy with the results. You know, um, yeah, clock looks cool. I'm enjoying like that, and I enjoyed this too, like just the big bold shapes and kind of the gradient look. Um, you know, it's pretty sweet. Um, I think I'm also gonna have to create like a little store to sell these drawings too. Yeah, like that would be really fun to like just sell the stream file, still sell the stream drawings too. Like $40 or something for a little sketch. Be cool. Just make it like affordable for everybody. I'll work on that. That'll be like my project from here is creating like a little online store and stuff. And maybe prints of the stuff that's in sketchbooks, prints for less money. let me switch over to a different layout here. Yeah, like, um, yeah, I'm pretty psyched on it. Thanks for hanging out, Sasmin and Mr. Fake. Like, I've enjoyed it. It's good to hear your thoughts on everything too, and like your take on just like the YouTube environment and stuff. And since you've like spent a lot of time hanging out, just feel free to like let me know what you want to see. Like if there's any particular, like if you want particular tutorial-ish, lesson-y things, or like drawings that you want to see or subjects to work on, I can do some stuff like that. And if there's like channel suggestions of like, oh, you should do this, you should do this, try this, like I'm open to that too. That'd be really cool. At any rate, I think that's it, and I'll talk to everybody later.